Hello and welcome to Insiders, a podcast all about the world of television with me, Peter Fincham.
And me, Jimmy Mulville.
This is the podcast for people who love TV and who want to know a bit more about what goes on behind the scenes in show business.
It's an exciting episode this week, Peter.
It is. We've got we're joined by a guest, and our guest is the legendary producer Andy Wilman, the executive producer of the huge hit series Clarkson's Farm. Before that, he was the executive producer of another huge hit series, The Grand Tour, and before that, the executive producer of the huge hit series Top Gear.
Oh, that little show.
In the spirit of full disclosure, two of those aforementioned programmes, The Grand Tour and Clarkson's Farm, were produced or co-produced in the case of The Grand Tour by my company Expectation.
Oh, well.
And now he's written a book that tells the tale of his extraordinary journey in television. It's Mr. Wilman's Motoring Adventures. It's available now in all good bookshops.
It's a rattling good read.
Before we come to Andy, and we'll join him in a minute,
Yeah.
they've just published an advertisement on the BBC's website.
It's an application.
Application for the post of the new Director General, with a very, very long list of things they need to be very good at indeed.
They'll be inundated.
I mean, what's curious about this to me, Jim, is it's basically saying you might, as it were, work in a bookshop in Stockton-on-Tees. You can apply to be Director of the BBC.
Yeah, I think you should if you work in a bookshop in Stockton-on-Tees.
Have you ever been to Stockton-on-Tees?
I have actually, Peter.
I haven't.
I know, well, it's in the north of England. Why would you go there?
I selected it randomly.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get Andy on, shall we?
So, Andy, good morning. Thank you for coming
Good
on
morning,
our
Andy.
podcast.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Let's start with what we've just been talking about. Director General of the BBC.
Because you know the BBC inside out. You've turned the BBC inside out.
Yes, I've seen.
You could run the BBC.
Oh, my pass ran out though. That day, and I haven't got it. And they want all the trophies back that I nicked, all the awards. Is it a long thing to fill in?
Oh, God, it's endless, mate. It's endless. I mean, the qualities that the Director General needs are so many. I got about a quarter way through and thought, well, I certainly haven't got many of these.
Well, if not you, what about
else.
Jeremy?
Well,
Jeremy,
there you go.
in that job,
Yeah.
the public would want it, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
He'd be
Does he be MP for Doncaster?
Yeah.
Or does he become Director General?
He'd be the people's choice.
So, Andy, why did you write the book?
Well, now there. Greatness thrust upon you, etc., etc. It was Penguin wanted Jeremy to write it, so they got in touch after we'd finished. It was like brought all the curtain down on all the car stuff, and the publisher at Penguin, and they published Jeremy's book, said like, "Come on now, time to write that." And Jeremy went, "I can't remember what I had for breakfast. Never mind."
Yeah.
When I sank an
He's very much a creature of the moment.
He's of the present.
I texted Jeremy yesterday. I want to reveal
Go on,
this
go on.
exclusively. I said, is this book a tissue of lies? And he texted back, I read it exactly. He said, his book is very funny and, as so far as I can tell, extremely accurate. There you go.
So far as I can tell, Memo the Memory Man.
What I'm fascinated by is that it's a very, as you point out, it's an informational show about motoring. And you guys decide to turn it into an entertainment show.
Decide is the word I would challenge.
Okay.
Accidentally. Because then I think that's the one thread in that book is accidents.
Yes.
We screw up so many times, and then things accidentally come our way, like the specials.
Yeah.
We're not bright enough to go, let's one episode a series do an hour long. No studio show. We go and shoot a film that turns out to be too long. And then go, we found ourselves a special. That's
good producing. Spotting an accident that works.
Just being bright enough to do that, but not so bright that you couldn't think of it in the first place. But the accidents were joyous. So we never. Once Jane Root said, "Get you 3 million."
Yeah.
That's your goal, and we got it with that towards the end of the first series.
Those were the days.
We were left alone. Yeah, we were left alone.
To be clear, for those who don't know, Jane Root was a controller of the BBC Two at the time. Correct. We've all worked with her.
I know.
And she was a very good controller.
She was brilliant.
Really good controller. And she was the one going, right, I'm sorry, Pebble Mill, but food and drink is now looking old. Top Gear's looking old, blah, blah, blah. She's got Jamie Oliver on his little scooter. She's got changing rooms, Trinity and Susanna. Everything's going on where factual entertainment's getting a lift and no one's doing piece to cameras anymore. So Top Gear gets a chop. And as long as we'd refreshed it, she was obsessed about the thing happening in space in the studio. But beyond that, she didn't ask for anything else, and we didn't plan anything else. So we thought we'd kind of done it. So, but when we start doing things like can a granny do a donut or best convertible for a man with a toupee, we're doing that to amuse ourselves.
Yeah.
We don't have a meeting where we go, right, phase 2.
This will work.
Bring in children to watch it. That kind of. We didn't do that.
Top Gear looks like a show about cars, but it's also a show about other things. It's a show about these 3 blokes. These
you
3
end
friends.
up going into the male brain, which is a hilariously
because women
empty
like the
vacuum.
show. You had a big female audience.
Nearly. I remember the day the marketing man said 48%, and we're like, Jesus.
Yeah.
And we never saw that. Then we tried to work it out, and I think, like, Friends was big at the time.
Yeah.
And you're watching. Women love watching Joey and Chandler and all that because they've got all the flaws of men, but they're very charming with them. And I think our 3, except for when we weren't, were always charming. Yeah, the audience started to grow in the female area, and I think mums were watching kids watching it.
Yeah.
And mums are going, I've got the whole brood.
But so let's get into that then, because as I say, Top Gear was probably, I think, one of the best shows this century.
Hey,
Yes.
Wouldn't you say that?
Yes.
Hang on, how long's telly been invented?
No, I 100% would. But also, it was a show that sat in relation to the BBC in a particular
It was
place.
but in your book you say, up until that point, the William Wooler's a fantastic broadcaster, but the Reithian mantra was to inform, educate, and entertain, and the entertain bit actually wasn't present in the first iteration of Top Gear as much.
No.
In many ways, it's a perfect BBC show.
Yes.
And because we're going to get to the point where you leave the BBC, but before we get there,
Yeah.
what was the pilot like when you made the pilot? Because
Christ.
Jane Root said, all right, you go away and make your vision of this, and then you came back with the pilot.
Oh, please don't call it our vision, but you have to because it wasn't it? We didn't know what we were doing there. We didn't think beyond, like, we've got a hanger and we've sold her this whole thing about the track.
Yeah.
But we didn't know what to do beyond that. We were no good at studio or anything. So you start this thing like a set designer comes in with like this sort of coliseum of like metal and scaffolding. So you're going, ooh, like Robot Wars or something like that, and dry ice. And you go, dry ice and strobes. Yes, that's perfect. We'll have that. Not having a fucking clue that it's actually not going to work. And then we piled everyone in July into this hangar, shut the doors, and it's like every light in a lighting house in London is in that room, and it's on full.
It's a bit warm, is it, in there?
Yeah, it's in there. And Jeremy's like, take your last breath, everybody. And everyone's like, like, fucking hell, is that the best you've got? And so they're in this arena type thing sitting there. We've got David Ginola as the pretend guest. And we haven't told him he's the guest, so he thinks he's a presenter.
Yeah.
Like,
He's a presenter. How can you?
he is? Because we hadn't just
that's a
thought all the
moment.
details. So we're like,
You hadn't briefed him?
we hadn't actually briefed him, no.
So his agent has said you might be presenting Top Gear
Yeah,
from here on
exactly. And we haven't like done anything to the contrary. So he's sitting there next to Jeremy Richards and Jason Dorr, and he's like talking about stuff, and like, and they're like, no, not yet, no. And then that whole thing as well of 3 presenters trying to talk to one guest never seems to work. So we didn't know that either. Then we were like, right, let's unveil the Stig, and we hadn't told the guy in the Stig suit what to do. So he's in a cage. What the fuck? And there's like dry ice and like some shit Doctor Who episode. And then he comes out and he starts walking around like a robot. And the viewers are like, they've watched, the last time they've seen Top Gear is William Willard going, drive carefully. And they're like, with his foot on a Morris Marina. And they're watching this like robot walk around like this. And
Did you brief him to do that? Or
no, we didn't say anything. That was the thing. We just thought things would happen. And we didn't think about any of that detail. So we come out and we like record, like cut it together, and we sent it like the VHS over to Jane to a little telly in her office. And we just sat there looking at the phone going, any minute now she's going to go, fuck off to Greg's. That's where you're going to work. That's your thing. And she was so lovely when she went, wasn't what I expected. And she was like, and then she said that thing, which I'll never forget. She went, I honestly thought I'd see cameramen walking around with cups of tea, walk and tripping over the cables and stuff, and that had all been shot. And we were like, that rough? And she went, you did say a hangar. And we were like, oh, right. And then that kind of one note.
She's good. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good
I mean,
note.
we still screwed up series 1 in terms of it took us a
Well,
while
you're
to
learning,
get it
aren't you?
right.
But,
Yeah,
There's a
but at least
lesson- there's a lesson.
But we did
you're facing the right way then, aren't you?
we then did a
After the
second pilot just for our own light, to see if we were any
Yeah.
better, which I didn't write about in the books. I thought, how many pilots shit can people take?
Yeah.
But we had Jason Dorr was like, Renault had sent a Renault of some description of one of the people carriers.
Oh.
And Jason was like, the audience is all around him. And he's like, starts to talk to the audience. We haven't set the cameras rolling or put the lights on. So he starts, and he's in the middle of the car going, these French cars, the build quality is not good. Look, rips the centre console like a bit, he pulls a bit too hard, and he's holding it up, and the audience are laughing. There's no cameras on, it's pitch
man.
black. Yeah. Brian, the director's going, what the fuck? I haven't... And then Jeremy's going, are you getting all this? And Brian's going, there's nothing rolling. It's like...
Let's talk about the relationship with the BBC, because it went very well for a long time.
Yeah.
And then it started to
Well,
go...
it made the BBC fortunes. Let's be honest.
Well, that's all part of it,
International
isn't it?
sales
Yeah.
were tens and tens of millions a year it was making off the back of your...
Oh, they told us
efforts.
it was tens of thousands when we got
Oh, no.
at the end of the year.
Let me
When
tell
they
you,
have meetings with
it
me
was
and Jimmy, you
millions.
see, they boast about how much money they really make. They say, don't tell Andy
Don't
Wilman.
tell them.
Is it true during this time, because we're talking about somebody I know here and I had dealings with, that Simon Fuller tried to sort of buy you out of the BBC?
Yes, that
lock,
rings a
stock
bell.
and barrel? That
Yes,
seems
that's coming back to me, that story. We were like not businessmen at all, and we're on wages, and
Yeah.
the show's like getting sold everywhere, and we're on wages, and we're at, so I think it's like 2006, 7, so we're big now.
Yeah?
We're big, but we're all on our wages, and then Simon Fuller rings Jeremy and says, I can make you really rich. I'm building
This
brands.
is Alan Klein and the Beatles, isn't it? This is the oldest story in the world. The
Yeah.
person who says you're being ripped off.
So there is
and I'll
our man, Pop
renegotiate.
Idol
Yeah.
man and everything. He's got Beckham, blah, blah, blah. And Roland Orzabal, no, it's Tears for Fears. Another a fashion designer, Roland somebody's got him. So he goes, right, come on, do cars. Come and do the Jeremy Clarkson car show. I'll take you all with me, and you'll all be like, you'll all have that bath like in Scarface
Yeah.
in your bathrooms. So we're like, well, hey. So we start talking to him,
Yeah.
and we go all the way, and we actually get a contract drawn up. Mark Devereux does it. We're all
Yeah.
there, and we're shaking hands on it. And then something happened where, and then, so we Simon Fuller tells the BBC they're now my boys, and if you want them, you've got to go through me. BBC Worldwide come back really aggressive straight away. They're like, well, you've got your mortgage sorted out because Fuller will take you apart, really aggressive. And Fuller's going, this is going to happen, don't worry, just hold firm. We're like, And then we get shaky, and this is psychological, but something about Jeremy and I we're thinking, a show called the Jeremy Clarkson Car Show is wrong. We have to somehow be under the umbrella of Top Gear. We have to be servants to that name. Otherwise, it's like cult of personality. Even though people are watching it for Richard,
Well,
Jeremy,
it's
and Joe.
Bruce's big night again, isn't it?
Yeah,
It'll be called
it's
a
like
generation
you
show.
are. It's exactly that. You're like, no, it can't be this. We can't do this. So we're getting cold feet. We're getting wobbly. And then John Smith at Worldwide, they get together and come up with this deal where we start to share in the sales. Right?
So you hadn't been sharing the sales up to that point?
No.
Wow.
No, nothing.
So
Well,
Simon
right,
Fuller's
tight as fuck.
leverage gets you a share in the sale, but Simon Fuller never
Yeah,
gets
it's the
you.
worst business deal ever. They sort of sell us Top Gear, and then they go, and then in 4 years we'll buy it back off you. But they're the only buyer. Honestly, shittest deal. Alan Sugar would have gone, what the fuck are you two doing?
yeah.
Like,
But I actually think
That's
Simon
bollocks.
Fuller did you a favour.
yeah.
Yeah.
And although
'Cause we
I don't know
stayed.
what would have happened, I suspect there were dangers in signing up for the Simon Fuller approach. So you got the leverage and the advantage without actually having to. stand
Yeah,
on
and
the
we would have
dotted
been
line.
through the same problems with the Grand Tour. We'd have lost the Stig. We'd have lost
Yeah.
all the IP that the big. Although Jeremy's thought of the Stig, we don't own it. So we
Yeah.
would have been out there on our own again.
Because you were employees of the BBC.
Yeah. When you do eventually leave the BBC,
Yeah.
you don't pick up the phone to Simon Fuller.
No.
Interesting.
Simon Cowell asked us to join him. He said he'll look after us.
Gosh, it was.
God,
That's worth a
And
whole
we
other
loved him.
podcast.
I
I'm
know.
happy to tell that story.
All right.
Am I right in thinking Simon Cowell was a very good driver?
Yes.
But I've worked with Simon Cowell for 10, 15 years. I never saw him drive a fucking car on his own.
No,
Well, because he gets driven around.
He was being driven around in a massive
No, he was
Rolls
in a Rolls
Royce.
Royce, yeah, but honestly,
Do
on
you
that
know,
track, he came down and did the, he drove in the Noble again.
Here's a story that I don't think he's ever been out there. During X Factor recordings down at Fincham Studios, Simon's Rolls Royce would be parked by the door with the engine on throughout, so that when he got in at the end, the air conditioning was at exactly the right temperature that he wanted it to be.
I've got a great story.
Go on.
No, that's not a very planet-friendly story,
No,
is
that's
it?
not, no.
Go on, what's your...
Richard Wallace.
Oh, yeah, I know Richard. You went to work for Simon. Richard Wallace, to explain to the listeners.
Ex-editor of the Daily
Mirror.
Mirror.
Yeah.
He was the one, he was editor when it was Top Gear Band's Gaze, our finest hour.
Yeah.
It's a great headline, and we gave it to him on a fucking plate. Yeah. So he's working on America's Got Talent with Simon.
Right.
And they've done the dress rehearsal. Simon calls Richard, and Richard's like producing it. And he's a troubleshooter. He can, because he's an ex-Fleet Street editor, he can handle someone like Simon in a way that telly people probably can't. So Simon calls him in after the dress rehearsal, and the lighting designer, set designer, and he goes, "It's all got to change. It's all got to change." And they're recording first show tomorrow. He went, "It's not working. It's absolutely not working." And fucking computer program lights and everything. So you can imagine the complexity of that set. Gets into the Rolls Royce with the air conditioning, goes back to the Beverly Hills motel or whatever, and then this like set designer guy's in tears, and Richard Wallace goes, "What are we going to do? What are we going to do?" And Richard goes, "Leave it with me." He goes, "Well, where do I start?" And Richard went, "Leave it." He goes, "What do you want me to do?" He goes, "Fuck all, nothing." So next morning, the Rolls Royce arrives, right? Richard's waiting for him. He goes, "Simon, come into the gallery before we go on to set." And he goes, "We've been working on it overnight, so we'll just show you on the screens." He went, "Press." He said, "We'll just show you how the lights and everything work. Press play." Nothing's changed at all. It goes doodly doodly doo through all the lights and everything. He goes, "What do you think to that?" And Simon went, "Now that's what I'm talking about."
So let's talk about, because we need to come to this. You know, the relationship gets a bit frayed. There are some moments which you talk about in the book. You're very frank about them. Yeah. And ultimately, we're on a kind of road that leads from you guys, I suppose, being, the naughty boys in the corner, but entertaining huge audiences, to... I don't know. Are you too hot to handle? Are you exactly?
Well, we lost our charm for a while, and then we got.
Okay, well, it's very interesting. Your first reaction to that is to take it on yourselves and say, it was not to say the BBC lost their sense of humour or became more woke or whatever you want to call it, but you that's not how you say it.
No, I defend them on that one, because I remember when we left and then we started to make Grand Tour, people used to say the most common thing was, "Oh, it must be great now you've left the BBC, you can do what you like." Jeremy and I would go, "Have you ever watched fucking Top Gear?" We did what we liked forever. I said, because people like David Jordan, the editorial policy, and Sue Pennington, they were brilliant with us, because they were very fastidious about it's okay to get complaints as long as you can defend yourself. They were excellent like that. And they used us as a bit of a sort of yardstick to other shows to go, "Look, don't be scared about getting in the papers as long as you can defend what you do. Because from that comes good non-vanilla sort of content." So we got on very well. And then I think we were, come 2012-13, we're pressurised, our own pressure about, my Christ, we're in now 8 millions and 9 millions. And we're now like thin oxygen up there, and we're like knackered, and we've got to keep coming up with ideas because we can't refresh in any other way other than thinking of stuff. And then we're giddy as well, because we're Guinness Book of Records, and we're a bit... And at that point, and I said in the book, I think we're living in a Tom and Jerry cartoon, whereby if we get into trouble, like an anvil falls on your head, your head takes shape again 6 seconds later.
Yes.
We think we're that, which is why we do Mexico, the slope joke. We just decide that we are now editorial policy.
But that doesn't lead to the end of this Top Gear at the BBC. That comes, you might say by now things are getting a bit hot. As you say, you're at an altitude where it's a bit thin in the air. But then, what leads to the end is a different incident, and we don't need to go over the incident, and nor do you in the book. But it's Jeremy and a producer and a kind of and a hot meal and all that kind of stuff. I think I'm assuming people will remember this.
Yeah.
The simple question I want to ask is, at that point, did Top Gear featuring Richard James and Jeremy need to come to an end, or was it mishandled by the BBC?
It didn't need to come to an end, but again, I've got to say, because Jeremy gets fired, I think everyone goes, fucking BBC, there you go again. But we were not like just totally, I can't say innocent, that's the wrong word, but Jeremy, like I say in the book, I don't know if he got offered any redemption or paths to redemption.
Well, I don't think he did, and I was kind of.
I don't know if he would.
I was quite close to the BBC at the time.
No.
I mean, my view is they could have found a path to redemption. I've got a memory. I went to a television conference in Tel Aviv. You might have been to it, Jim. Have you ever been to it?
No, I've managed to avoid that.
Well, no, it's a good conference.
You know how much I hate television conferences?
Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah. You've mentioned that often. We are appearing at one next
Guest
week.
speaker, yeah. Go there.
Next week we're appearing at one.
Remind him of that when you stand up there.
I remember I went shopping in a place called Jaffa on a Saturday morning to buy some trinkets
Oranges.
to take home. No, to buy some trinkets in a market, to buy some trinkets for my kids. Bloke I'm buying from, when he realised I got an English accent, he says, "What is happening to Mr. Clarkson?"
Yeah.
I thought, oh my God, that
Christ,
tells
that's
you
news, isn't it? Yeah.
the power, and that tells you that, and I think it's a lesson for television executives, which I was at the time, which is do not think that you and the talent are, if you like, a sort of a heavyweight contest where you're equal people. You're not. The audience don't give a damn about
they
television
don't. They
executives,
don't.
but they really care about stars. And Jeremy, he may have at times been a bit hot to handle, but he was the biggest star in the biggest show of its sort on the BBC.
And here's the interesting thing I wanted to just add here is that the BBC is funded by, the license fee. So the public are the kind of owners of the BBC in a way. Had you done a YouGov poll of whether Jeremy Clarkson or whether Top Gear, because that's what happened in the end, should leave the BBC or not, my money would be on the majority of people saying no, it shouldn't. That actually that they should stay on the air, no matter what happens.
Yeah, I think the public
there maybe
would go,
there needs to be a punishment.
Yeah, they go. There must be a way to find a punishment because we'd seen it with Jonathan Ross.
Yeah.
Yes.
With Andrew Sachs's
Yeah,
daughter.
yeah.
Well, you'd seen a punishment take effect.
Yeah.
And then penance done and so on. So the people know there's a mechanism.
I think at a very senior level, they were determined to get rid of Jeremy. And I remember talking.
Well, there's
at
one
the time-
individual.
You would know more than me because I was
Well, I
cut
remember
out
at the
of all
time
that.
talking to Alan Yentub, who I think was he had a title like creative director of the BBC. But
He didn't
no,
want to.
he didn't have
He didn't want
executive
Jeremy to
power.
go.
But Alan, who a bit like Jane Root, got it, understood
And loved
how
talent.
you
Yeah,
loved talent.
Loved telly more
he
than
didn't
anything.
agree with this. He said, no, we can keep Jeremy. Obviously, as you say, some penance is needed. It's going to need to be public so that there's some kind of eating of humble pie or whatever. But somebody else was determined.
But why
that
are
he
we
went.
dancing around it? Danny Cohen actually
Wanted to get rid of him.
wanted to get rid
And he
of
did get
Jeremy
rid of him.
Clarkson,
Yeah, he did
and
not
it wasn't
get on.
just at that incident.
Ideologically, they did not get on.
And so I think it was. You're right. It was a battle of ideologies in the end, and he saw himself as being some kind of witchfinder general, and I think it was a mistake.
Well, whether that'll make the edit, we'll find out.
Here's the thing which galled me as an independent producer. I think the Top Gear, the way you describe your outfit within the BBC is quite interesting because it looks, to all intents and purposes, like an independent production.
Yes.
The way we had we're like Asterix the Gauls' little village.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you create the idea. It's not that it's a BBC title.
Yeah.
But actually, you reinvent the show from the ground floor up. Everything about it has changed.
We take ownership by. We're like squatters, I guess.
Yes.
We go in and go, right, we've changed the locks.
But along the way, you're making the BBC millions of pounds
Yeah.
a year. Jeremy Clarkson's the third most popular presenter in Russia. He has a huge...
Or was a badge of pride, that isn't
I
it?
didn't know where you were going with it. Third most popular centre in Brighton. Yeah.
And
Russia.
and you bite the hand that feeds you.
That's a
Well, and in Israel, as
And
I
yes,
found out.
and like Have I Got News for You, you bite the hand that feeds you, and the BBC allows that to happen. And actually, that's quite a good
Because it was, some people like Danny, I think, like, just did not like Jeremy at all. And he was like, right, now is an opportunity. That man has cooked his own goose. Jeremy gave him the ammunition. So he's like, right.
I think there was a sense of triumph about it, which is rather unpleasant. But the fact is that...
I don't know that because, like I say, I was cut out.
No, but we can make
totally
things up on this podcast. It doesn't matter.
All right. Yeah, I saw it happen.
No lawyers listen to it before it goes out. You'll be glad to hear.
Danny Cohen once said to me, and I've got no personal gripe against Danny, but he's been perfectly nice to me. But he got me in the office once when we were talking about the BBC. He said, I'd like to get more of the spirit of independent production inside the BBC studios to kind of make it more entrepreneurial. I said, that's impossible. I said, what you can do is encourage mavericks inside big corporations. And if you think about some of the great maverick producers of the BBC, like Michael Waring, who finds Alan Bleasdale, and Kenneth Trodd, who finds Dennis Potter. You've got Dennis Main Wilson, who does Till Death Us Do Part. Robert Thurkel, who does all his fantastic.
Yeah.
And then there's you, who comes in with Jeremy and creates this fantastic behemoth of a show, and you give it to the BBC. It's a BBC show, but that could have been an independent show quite easily.
It could.
And
it became so when it became the Grand Tour, of course.
Yeah, and so they migrated to Amazon, and since then they've not been able to land the form, because it's not, Top Gear is not just a format with like Have I Got News For You, where you can lose a host and replace the host. Every week you're creating a story, and it's almost like a sitcom. Each week you've got three guys.
It's like Morecambe and Wise in the pajamas in bed, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone thought they all three of them lived in the same house.
And since then they fucked it up
Yeah,
royally.
it's the Beatles and Help.
And
Andy,
they all
can we just
go home.
So I know you go over this. You go through this in the book, but let's just go over this. So Jeremy's contract is ended, but then the BBC make an attempt to persuade Richard and James to stay on. I can remember, and I don't know when this was in the whole sequence of events, you may remember this, a meeting at my house actually in West London. I was the director of television at ITV at the time.
Yeah.
There was talk of you all coming to ITV.
I came and looked at all your records.
You came and looked at my vinyl. It was in the hut. It was in the shed at the bottom of my garden.
Yeah, and I'm like, fucking hell, he's got that.
And the
Shed,
reason
like
we
a
were doing it
palace.
home, but the reason we were doing my home was the Jeremy, the four of you turning up at ITV building was going to get photographed and was going to end up in the press. So we thought we'd have to do it. But at that time, you hadn't created the Grand Tour.
No.
I'm not even sure at that point that it was certain that Richard and James wouldn't stay at the BBC.
No, it was
all to play for. It was with Elaine Bedell, by the way, who plays a role in this story and has also been a great champion.
She's at ITV at that point, isn't she?
She is the head of entertainment at ITV. Yeah. I'm the head of television. So we think we should make a play for the Top Gear guys because the BBC have let them go. Yeah. I don't think we were ever very optimistic about it because I sensed from Jeremy anyway, maybe from the rest of you, a feeling that, which we've talked about on this podcast before, the road from the BBC to ITV is a treacherous one. Mm. You lose something in defiance. A Morecambe and Wise story, basically.
I think we were also still in a bit of shock as well. And like you said, there were so many factors in there. We don't know where to go, and we don't know what to do because we've made this thing up as we go along.
So where were Richard and James in this then? When it happened, what was their reaction?
They were in the meeting because I remember Richard admiring the lighting in my back garden.
No, I'm talking about when they get the news. We're going to move away from your architectural digest moment, Peter.
Yeah, Wallpaper magazine.
Fucking hell.
Come round. So it's
a bit of colour, Jim. This is what you need in these stories.
Oh, that's it. We look at all the B&Q price tags on everything. So we go.
It's all like here.
So we go Wix. Yeah. So we go. I mean, we've mentioned them all now.
Okay, yeah.
So sponsored by.
Yeah.
So we go. We're like, we don't know what to do. We have this meeting at Jeremy's flat, and we're like, we work out.
Is it gloomy? What are you
battered?
Like?
We're battered is what we are.
Shocked.
We're like, and I think because we're blokes, we don't get everything out. And if say if James or Richard was angry, because we had a 3-year deal lined up for another 3 years of Top Gear, that's gone. Nobody's saying it. And also, so nobody's saying because we're blokes, nobody's getting anything on the table.
Yeah.
Whether they were angry or not, entitled to be.
Yeah.
I wasn't because genuinely, we've been together since we were 11. And if you work with Jeremy and there's no one like him, he is the producer actually as well as the presenter. You take what you take what comes because you don't get one without the other. He's not vanilla. You take it. Yeah. So I'm all right. I'm cool. But I don't know what they were feeling at that time. We don't talk about it. We're just blokes. And we don't know what to do. And then I'm sitting there thinking, whatever happens, we're all right, because the BBC will just like screw up now. And the BBC don't screw up. They go, right, let's go get Richard and James, and then we'll take everybody off the chessboard in one move. And they offer them editorial control, which I know James would love, because Jeremy and myself can get a bit dictatorial about me and the edit and Jeremy out on doing stories. And then what made me laugh was I know Alan Yentab was trying to save Jeremy, but when they switched to like, we'll make a play for Richard and James. There's the paparazzi shots of Alan walking outside the BBC with Richard and James, like going for a coffee.
James towering over both of them, I guess.
And it's like all these fantastic accidental photographs that appear as we say, Alan's now got to protect the BBC.
Yeah, he's got a job to do.
Move on.
Yeah.
And then we eventually say, like Elephant in the Room, they're making a play. Richard says, yeah, they're making a play and they've offered us a lot. But they both sort of go, but if we can stay together, it would be good. And then we accelerate the process.
Wise, yeah.
We accelerate the process of trying to find somewhere. And we kind of knew it's got to be America, but we didn't know what that meant.
Now, we talked a lot about things going wrong, with the relationship with the BBC and kind of some of the stunts backfiring and so on. But we should ask you about probably the biggest thing that went wrong, which you write about very eloquently in the book, which is Richard Hammond's accident. It must have made you think, we're doing all this for entertainment, but here could be properly tragic consequences of it.
Yeah.
Did that feel like it shook the foundations of Top Gear, and did it make you inhibited to do more risky things?
No, it didn't, because it didn't inhibit us, because the health and safety was I think everyone thought we just like turned up drinking Jack Daniels and like doing coke, and then we're like, right, we'll drive some cars at 200. We were really good about that sort of stuff. We just were good, because we were all like, we're parents and all that. So we were very good at that kind of thing. So it shook the foundations briefly, because although you know you're going to be all right in whatever investigation comes, you're like, fucking hell, it was a 300-mile-an-hour car, and he was driving it for the first time that day.
And it was his idea. You said that very clear in the book. He says, I want to go very fast.
Yeah. And we're like, what, F1 car? And he's going, no, really fucking fast. So off we go, getting this jet-powered dragster. And I remember when he went on the Jonathan Ross show, which is the first thing he did, and Jonathan Ross went, so do you feel nervous now when you get in a car? This is like after he's back. And Richard's going, it was a jet-powered car. It's not a Golf GTI.
You tell a story in the book, which I didn't know, which you struck me as such a typically BBC story, that after this happened, BBC News turn up and say, you must hand over the footage because it's a news story. And you refused. To your credit, you refused. But this is, to my mind, so classic of the BBC. There are moments when you're at the BBC when the people in news say, we are more important than you. Who was the arbiter that said you don't have to hand over the footage?
Jana Bennett, God bless her.
Good for Jane.
Jane said, right, it's yours. She went, no. And it was I've read about this thing now called jury equity, where a jury can find someone not guilty on conscience rather than facts. Or this whole David Lammy thing today about scrapping trials by jury, that's the thing that would get lost, that they can do that. And she was like, no, they lived it.
Yeah.
So it's their right. She did it on a kind of emotional conscience thing like that.
Yeah, and then it will. I mean, to look at another point of view, would you have given the footage to ITV News or to Channel 4 News? In other words, why do BBC News have some sort of droit de seigneur over this news footage?
They were good on for trying, but it was never going to happen. We'd never, even if Jane had said hand it over, we wouldn't have, because we physically had it.
Yeah.
We'd like run down to the telly and put it in the machine that puts it on telly ourselves.
We all care deeply about it and want the good side of the BBC to triumph over the bad, if you like. Now, I'd love to ask you, Andy, because, BBC's all over the news in the last few weeks. Do you feel supportive of the BBC, even though Top Gear ended in a difficult way? Or do you feel critical of the BBC?
I feel critical of that, and I have got a lot of affection for them. But I feel critical. And it's that thing again, and I think all three of us have seen this. It's like, why do they let it get to this point where they do nothing and then they've got to burn the house down?
They play dead. They bury their head in the sand.
And then and you know it's coming. If that report is flying around about that edit, it's coming. And they do nothing and nothing, nothing, and then they've got to blow the building up rather than just firing something.
And on the specific, Andy, it's emerged in the last couple of days because you had Samir Shah in the in front of a parliamentary committee talking about it, that the notorious edit in Panorama was a contentious issue because there are people who say that's a perfectly legitimate edit, and there are other people who say no, you're misrepresenting what Trump said.
Was crap.
You're an editor. Was that a legitimate edit or not?
No, it's not a legitimate edit. It isn't, and not at all. And his letter was crap when he was like trying to justify it, saying. What were the words? Something about we were trying to convey the sense of what Trump's
by misrepresenting what he actually
bullshit.
Like, no, you fucking changed it.
Yeah.
You changed it. You didn't, and that's not what Panorama's supposed to do.
No, but it's interesting because we all know editing is telling a story. Editing is making choices. So editing, the minute you start editing anything, you're not necessarily telling exactly as it
We
happened.
were told that thing, it's got to be true, but it doesn't have to be real.
Yes.
And it failed that test.
Yes.
So Jeremy does and Richard drive to the North Pole in their car. Now, when they go home, somebody will do more driving shots for the director to get shots. So not every shot you see is them driving along.
Yeah.
But did they drive to the North Pole? Yes, they did. Every mile of the way.
You've all emerged from the BBC, and you've gone on to even bigger success on Alma.
Well, now I think the farm is like Top Gear. I see a direct line there that they're both accidents.
Totally, yeah.
And they're both lightning in a bottle. And who gets lightning in a bottle twice in your telly career? Jesus.
Well,
fucking hell, you never
You must
do.
be doing something right, though, Andy.
It's just Jeremy again. Like, nothing happens without that guy. Nothing happens. He's so good.
People ask me about the farm more than any other
journalist.
program I've been
Not
involved
presenter.
in the last 10 years. And I always say the key thing about it is that it was Jeremy's idea. We all see programs all the time where we know producers have had a wacky idea, persuaded somebody to present something. That can work, but it works much more at a much deeper level. If it's the person, it is literally Clarkson's farm. It is his farm.
Who is also a journalist.
Yeah.
That tabloid journalism has never left him. I remember when so it's like he lives and dies by ideas. And he is the one who you send him a cut of a film. And I think if viewers go, oh my God, he's very noisy and he's like very opinionated and what have you, I think they extrapolate that to going, he must get his own way all the time. He's the one where you send him a film and you go, that needs 10 minutes out of it. Take 10 minutes of yourself out. He like rubs his hands. He's like, well, hey, here we go. Because he loves the process of subbing in newspaper columns, And if you ask the Sunday Times or the Sun, his column's on time, and if it's 500 words, he gives them 500. He doesn't go, I've written 800 and I'm Jeremy Clarkson, so make some space. He's like a worker like that.
There's a unique thing about Jeremy. I don't want to just sit here saying how wonderful Jeremy is, but he's a brilliant broadcaster. His voice carries from print to screen without a hiccup, which is terribly unusual.
I know.
In other words, there's a lot of people who are brilliant in print and they're absolutely awful on screen, and vice versa. Very few
Clive
people.
James could never do a piece to camera, apparently.
I didn't know that.
No, he
but
couldn't.
To be fair, he had a very successful
He
television
did,
career for
but
many
his
years.
stuff was always voiceover.
Yes.
Like he's always walking around and then it's just like narration.
Yes.
I think they tried some pieces to camera and then it was like, oh shit.
All right, look, we should let you go, Andy. It's been so
I've got to get to the edit and do some
You've got to
farm
go and
art.
edit Clarkson's farm, but you've been so generous with your time.
much,
and to
Andy.
Oh,
remind-
lads, it's been
Remind
brilliant.
our listeners again, Andy's book, Mr. Wilman's Motoring Adventure.
One of the legends of television.
Can I say it would look lovely under a Christmas tree?
Yes.
It's quite easy to wrap. It's a nice shape
It
for
is.
people like me who can't wrap
It's
presents.
accidentally come out in the Christmas gifting period.
I've got it
I don't
here.
know why
I'm
the
going to
publishers
show
have
it
done
on
that.
camera.
It's a lovely big
It's
book.
in all good bookstores now.
So, Peter, I thought that was a really good interview with Andy. I really enjoyed talking to him about his experiences.
I think there's so much kind of to learn in a way about the relationship with the BBC, how a program evolves. I know we keep saying it. His book is really good. It's so readable.
But if you're a young producer,
Yeah, if I were a young producer, I'd read it.
he's such a great storyteller, and he makes a story out of a car show. It's a kind of genius thing, really. But honestly, I thought that I think we stumbled into quite a good thing. I think we should get some more people on to interview because I get fed up just talking to you.
On that note,
Okay.
Thank you very much for listening. Are there any questions about the world of television that you've always wanted to ask? Send them our way. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, you can get us through our emails or our socials in the usual way. Or why not just watch us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel on YouTube?
I was supposed to say that.
Okay.
Next week, we'll be doing the pod live on stage from Content London, where we'll, of course, confess that all those times we've made fun of TV conferences and how boring they are, we never really meant it. We actually think they're really good fun.
Yes,
So this
can't
one
wait to go.
Yeah, exactly.
When is it?
Next week.
Oh, I can't make
It's
it.
in your diary.
Okay.